The Zephyrian Council had exhausted every option. For 3 cycles they had watched their greatest warriors crumble before the entity they had accidentally unleashed from the quantum void. The thing, if it could even be called that, existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, its very presence unraveling the fabric of reality around it. Seasoned veterans who had conquered entire star systems now gibbered in padded cells, their minds shattered by glimpses of geometries that shouldn't exist. Council Prime Vexthara's crystalline form flickered with desperate luminescence as she addressed the emergency assembly. The horror has consumed the outer rim completely. Our psychic dampeners are useless. Our reality anchors fail within minutes of deployment. Her voice carried the weight of impending extinction. We have one option remaining. A collective shudder rippled through the assembled delegates. Everyone knew what she meant. The humans? Whispered Counselor Zeftos, his serpentine coils tightening with revulsion. Those creatures. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity not for their weapons, though those were terrifyingly effective, but for their minds. While other species evolved elegant psychic abilities or transcendent consciousness, humans had developed something far more disturbing, an absolute immunity to sanity-breaking stimuli. They looked upon cosmic horrors that drove ancient gods to madness and asked, "Is that it?" Dr. Sarah Chen arrived on the Zephyrian flagship 3 hours after the distress call. She stood barely 5 feet tall, wearing a faded t-shirt that read, "I survived another Monday," and carrying a thermos of coffee that had seen better decades. The assembled council, beings who commanded fleets capable of cracking planets, found themselves inexplicably nervous in her presence. "So," Sarah said, consulting a tablet while sipping her coffee, "you've got a 17-dimensional entity that breaks minds just by existing. Standard Tuesday for us, really. Where's the problem?" Vexithara's form pulsed with confusion. The problem is that it's destroying our civilization. It's consumed 12 systems, our greatest warriors." Right, Sarah waved dismissively. "But what's the actual challenge here? Is it adaptive? Does it learn? Because honestly, static. Horror gets boring pretty quick." The silence that followed was deafening. "Boring?" Zeftos barely managed to whisper. "Well, yeah. 17 dimensions? We've got a video game back home that's 23-dimensional. Kids play it on their phones." Sarah scrolled through her tablet. "Says here your entity just exists menacingly and drives people insane by being geometrically impossible. That's it?" She looked genuinely disappointed. "Dr. Chen," Vexthara said carefully, "this being has destroyed the minds of our greatest champions. Warriors who have stared into black holes without flinching now weep at the mention of its name." "Uh-huh." Sarah nodded absently. "And you want me to what exactly? Fight it?" "Because I should mention I'm actually a xenobiologist. Combat's not really my thing. I just study stuff." The council exchanged glances that somehow conveyed both hope and terror. An hour later, Sarah floated, in her specially shielded observation pod at the edge of the entity's influence. The horror hung in space like a wound in reality itself, angles folding through dimensions that had no names, surfaces that were simultaneously inside and outside of existence. Around it, the twisted remnants of Zephyrian ships drifted like the fever dreams of a mad architect. "Huh," Sarah said into her comm unit. "It's actually kind of pretty, like a kaleidoscope made of nightmares." She leaned forward, making notes. "The bilateral symmetry is fascinating. Wait, no, that's quadrilateral. Or maybe octodecimal. Hard to tell when half of it exists in imaginary space." The entity seemed to notice her attention. Reality rippled as it turned what might generously be called its focus toward her pod. Waves of pure, concentrated madness crashed against her shields, whispers of truths that should never be known, visions of the universe's true nature that reduced souls to quivering jelly. Sarah yawned. "Okay, that's the standard incomprehensible cosmic truth package," she murmured, still taking notes. "Pretty basic stuff. We get this kind of thing in our philosophy classes." She paused, considering. Though I have to admit, the visual effects are top-notch. Really sells the whole sanity-blasting aesthetic. The entity pulsed, seeming almost frustrated. It intensified its assault, reality bending and twisting as it revealed layer after layer of forbidden knowledge. The true nature of consciousness, the meaninglessness of existence, the fact that all of creation was merely the dream of something vast and uncaring, concepts that had turned Zephyrian philosophers into drooling vegetables. "Oh, that's nihilistic. Existentialism," Sarah said brightly. "Yeah, we figured that one out in the 19th century. Bit derivative, honestly. Don't you have anything original?" The horror paused. In the silence of space, its multidimensional form seemed to consider. Then it began to change. New angles erupted from impossible surfaces, dimensions folded in ways that created colors beyond the visible spectrum, sounds that existed only as concepts, thoughts that thought themselves. The entity was adapting, evolving, trying to find some combination of mind-breaking stimuli that would finally crack this stubborn human psyche. Sarah's eyes lit up. "Now we're talking," she started, typing rapidly. "Adaptive mimetic hazard with real-time psychological analysis. Oh, this is good. This is really good." She looked up at the swirling mass of impossibility with something approaching affection. "You're trying to custom-build my personal nightmare, aren't you? That's adorable." The entity seemed to pulse with what could only be described as effort. It was learning, studying her responses, crafting horrors specifically designed for the human mind. Visions of failure, of meaninglessness, of cosmic insignificance. Every fear that had ever plagued humanity, concentrated and weaponized. Sarah giggled. "Oh, you sweet thing," she cooed at the cosmic horror. "You don't understand us at all. Do you? These aren't our nightmares, they're our Tuesday morning motivational posters. Cosmic insignificance still better than Monday." She paused, then leaned forward conspiratorially. "Want to see what actually scares humans?" She pulled up her tablet and showed it a picture. The entity recoiled so violently that several nearby asteroids simply ceased to exist. "Student loan debt," Sarah explained cheerfully, "with compound interest. Now that's true horror." The entity began to retreat, its impossible form folding in on itself as it sought escape from this incomprehensible creature that treated mind-breaking cosmic truth as light entertainment. "Wait, don't go," Sarah called after it. "I was just starting to have fun. Come back when you've got something that can at least match a decent horror movie. Maybe something with actual character development next time." But the entity was already gone, fleeing to the darkest corners of space to contemplate the true horror it had encountered, a species so fundamentally broken that nothing could break them further. Sarah settled back in her pod with her coffee, already composing her report. "Note to self," she dictated. "Cosmic horrors are surprisingly boring when they lack creativity. Recommend establishing diplomatic relations. They seem nice enough once you get past all the reality-warping madness." Behind her, the Zephyrian fleet hung in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. She asked if it came in a harder level. Vexithera whispered. In the depths of space, something vast and ancient made a mental note. Never mess with humans. They were far too terrifying.